Hello and welcome to Schmidy's Guide to E5 Tanking in Secret World Legends. We'll be doing the Darkness War in this video. I'm just going to be showing you all the fights, the new mechanics, and how to deal with them. And even though we will be doing this from the perspective of the tank, I'm also going to be explaining anything extra that the healer or the DPS will need to know, so regardless of your role, this is going to be useful for you. So in the tank role, obviously you'll see that we are just using our standard build here, and we are going to get down to about where an E5 tank should be as far as survivability goes. That's going to be the same for our other DPS as well. You'll see that even though some of them have way too much gear, we have put them down to 100% healing so that they are just doing the expected value DPS. A little bit better than expected value DPS for the dungeon in general. So, like, we would probably be able to get that amount of DPS once you reach about 500 to 525 item power, which is still within the E5 realm, but it would be somewhere near the top of it. So for this dungeon, we do have one major change we're making to our standard build, which is that we are going to remove Seethe for Burning Wrath because there's so many adds in Darkness War. And then if you want to, you can remove Outrage and put in either Animosity or like Veil of Deformity. It doesn't really matter. Neither of them are so impactful that it makes a huge difference, but it is a nice extra little bit of protection rating that you can give to yourself. So, first we're going to be fighting a little Mayan sorcerer here that spawns a bunch of adds. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to build up to one stick of butter here, one stock of rage, and just immediately use a Burning Wrath. As you can see, it creates an AoE on the ground, and that AoE will slow down the adds and also make it so that they come to you at the tank, which is really nice. The healer and the DPS really just want to try to stay in that area or close to the tank, because that's going to allow them to not get killed by the adds when the adds spawn. As the tank, I like to turn him around, as you see here, so that I can see everything that's going on in the fight, because eventually more adds are going to spawn, usually right before you're about to win, when he's got like maybe 20,000 hit points left or something. And we're going to knock them away with an impair so that they don't kill everybody. Your DPS can also help you with that, as you saw. And then we're going to pick them up with that Burning Wrath so that when they do stand up, if they're not already dead, which my group is good and they're attacking adds, so they are, but if they're not already dead, they're at least on you, the tank, the person who it should be. So do so much damage. So Rose is doing more damage than is expected, but there's not too much we can do except have her take pieces off, and that's just a little excessive. So he probably did so much damage because of AoEs and stuff. But regardless, okay, so now we're going to the second boss here. These guys hurt. They hit like a truck, and I don't know why, but they are legitimately difficult. They hit really hard, like harder than the boss does, without his adds present. So you actually are going to want to use cooldowns on these guys, because they are just that dangerous. Alright. So there's some new stuff here for the Zabalan Bloodhound. Specifically, he has Concuss, which you will need to have a cooldown for, and he also has his blood boils. The AoE circle around him is no longer impairable, so you have to get out of the way of it. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to make sure you've got some rage starting into this fight, or if you've got the pneumatic maul. We're going to grab these guys, we're going to leave a Burning Wrath down there, and we're just going to walk away, actually. We're going to try to pick up the boss. It can be a little wonky here. Oh, that's Concussed, you can see it. Alright, and he should, hopefully, maybe, be walking to me now, and now we can pick him up. The beginning of that fight is totally nuts. Even with a good tank and good players, you are very likely to have to deal with this once or twice, because when he decides he's going to aggro is weird. Can be affected by whether or not like a chain AoE that was meant to hit all the adds decides that it's also going to hit the boss or whatever, and then suddenly he's on one of your DPS or the healer or whatever, or he decides to use like Concuss and push you out of the way, followed by Blood Boils, so you have no time to gain aggro, and then your DPS start getting murdered. The beginning of this fight is really kind of ugly. But after that, it should be pretty simple. We're going to usually let him use 3 Underworld Miasmas, and then we're just going to move him away from that area, find another nice little clean area over on the other side. Okay, he's using Concuss. We're going to use our cooldown. And now he's going to traipse over here, and we carry on. So there's nothing to impair, so just use Eruption as the tank, or just use any of your impairs as the DPS off cooldown so that you're doing as much damage with them as possible, because that's really all they're good for here. And for the healer, nothing really special, right? Make sure that you're staying between the tank and the adds so that they don't murder you. Try to pay attention to any residual damage that the DPS are taking right at the beginning of the fight, but that's really all you have to do. And then, there we go. Yeah, so that's about the tempo that you can expect from a group that is at or a little tiny bit above expected value levels of damage. Ooh, was that a... no, only a 2-pape. Expected values of DPS. So we're doing right around where you want to be. In fact, probably a little bit on the high side of where the game expects you to be as far as damage goes for each of our DPS. They're each doing about the same amount of damage. And honestly, I should also be like swapped over to these ones, but it doesn't really matter. Like, since the only combat power I'm getting comes from these weapons, I'm getting a lot more oomph out of my build from this, but I'm not going to lose aggro even with the old pneumatic maul, and I like Alacrity too much. It's too powerful for the tank to not just have. So for this guy, you're going to want to start Disembarkation, and then I like to run out of the way of it because it will knock you away. You will also use Isama's Wrath, which needs to be purged, so save your Eruption for that. Then here, I like to, save a Burning Wrath so that when the Akab adds spawn, there is already going to be a Burning Wrath just sitting here waiting for them. Your DPS should focus the adds, and the healer should try to make sure that they are close to the tank so that the tank can pick up any adds that maybe don't get caught by that Burning Wrath or by whatever AoE you happen to be using as the tank to pick it up. Makes life easy. And from here, just sort of, follow the lines. Do what it says. Save your Eruption for Isama's Wrath so that you can just purge it right off of him. Get that Rage built up so that you can just drop a Burning Wrath here again. And when the adds spawn is generally when the tank is going to want to bring or use the cooldown, because that's when you're going to be taking the most damage. Or if you forget your purge, that needs to get fixed. If you forget your purge and you've used it already, like I'm about to use here, you can also have your cooldown up so that when he brings out Isama's Wrath, he doesn't just melt you. Because the cooldown will keep you alive from that for a moment. And then just don't stand in the stupid, and there you go. Easy peasy. That didn't work at all. There we go. So the Unbound Akab is our next target here. He's very similar to what he always has been. It's just that the DPS check kicks up a notch here. You'll spawn a bunch of adds. You can either drag them all the way back to the front, which I think generally is just a waste of time, or you can drag them all the way to the back. If you're good about it and your DPS are decent, like not even great, but just decent, they will easily be able to spank all of these Akab before the Unbound Akab pops out. And then everybody will back off. The tank wants to be the closest, and I like to stand here because he will spawn early if you stand here, which just lets you get to the fight faster. He'll just burst out of the ground, use a dash, and here you are. Use that cooldown right away. He hits like a truck, and he'll use a dash, but he has to get through you for the dash to hurt you. That was something that they knew back in the old game, and they just decided to make it so that if you have your back to the wall here, you'll be okay. So just put your back to the wall and beat him up. And try to save your Burning Wraths. There's a couple ways to deal with the adds here. Sometimes there will be a like a runner who runs far away from the boss, and then everybody else sort of just stays next to the tank slash healer. That's one way to do it. So right here we're going to want to... Okay, never mind. I was going to say if the adds and the boss are attacking you at the same time, you will definitely want to use your cooldown, but we killed them so fast that it didn't matter. In a good group where everybody is doing good damage and is focusing the proper targets, that will happen a lot. Woo! Alright, and this time I don't have any nice way to pick up the adds, so just run over to the center, get out of the way, and good healers and DPS will make it so that the tank can pick up adds before the adds murder them. Right? You'll be using their mistresses' Bashosens to knock them down so the tank has extra time to grab them. They'll be running through the tank so the tank is in between them and the adds. Do that. This is just kind of, do you know how to deal with adds? The dungeon. Okay, and then we have our battle mage here. He's got a couple of new things. Some of his stuff is different, so he has Itsama's Wrath as well. You'll want to purge that. A lot more adds spawn, and when he goes up top and launches blood bombs, those blood bombs are super fast. So he almost always starts off with, a cast, but he didn't there. Yeah, he usually starts off with Sanguine Omen. I would say like 60 to 70% of the time, that's what I see him use first. He usually wants to teleport once. If you do a ton of damage, he is going to teleport straight to the top, but most of the time he's going to teleport. I like to just interrupt that even though you don't have to, because it makes my life easier. Like, I don't have to move around, and I'm lazy. I don't like moving around as the tank if I don't have to. So as you can see, the blood bombs are significantly faster than they used to be in E4 and lower. And he just went straight up top. There actually is a little safe spot right about here where you don't have to move. Yeah, it's pretty nice. It also puts you right next to the boss. So as the tank, that's a nice little spot to go, because it'll allow you to pick up these adds and everything without having to do too much about it. And he will start turning them into Dynamions. So does the first boss, to be fair. Oh, okay. Sometimes his telegraph for teleporting to one side or the other actually just means he's going up top. As the tank or any melee DPS, you might get fooled by that once in a while because it looks like he's telegraphing that he's going to be running away from you and he'll still be attackable, but he isn't. We're making that go away. Okay, this one looks like it's real. Yeah. So he is going to launch some blood bombs. And you need to, as the tank, be watching out for the adds that are going to be popping up here. You can sort of lay that down so that you're in two places at once, effectively. You're going to want a ranged DPS to deal with a Dynamion. There we go. And make sure you're using your cooldowns to help your healer if they need it. This fight can get a little crazy once in a while. Got another Burning Wrath. You can see how powerful Burning Wrath is. I can stay well away from those explosions and still be safe, but we did just lose our healer, and that's a big deal. How much HP does our Battle Mage friend have left? A lot. So we are going to heal ourselves a little bit here, but probably not enough to survive more than 1 or 2 hits max. Yeah, we tried. Okay, so sometimes that happens. He probably died to adds or something, or the bombs went too deep. So that happens. I mean, wiping is just part of running the dungeon, and it's okay to wipe. If there's a really good reason why it looks like you can't beat the dungeon, then, trying to start a retreat is good. But most of the time, you'll just be able to beat it if you try again once or twice, and everybody is sort of on the same page and talking to each other. Using group chat is actually a very powerful tool, so you can make it so that the groups are a lot better that way. especially when you're running with people who aren't necessarily like your group of friends who you play this game with. Alright, so same deal here. Just, he's gonna hurt. Wow. Alright, he went up top. We've got some rage here. I got a stick of butter in case some adds appear. And as long as our healer does not go too deep, as he called it, I guess he probably was just in too far to get away from blood bombs or something possibly, or is too far away from me to be able to help me pick up the adds before they killed him. Both of those are possibilities. The nice thing about those being faster is that he isn't up there for such a long time in E5 and up, so you actually like are not waiting forever for him to come back. I'm a fan of that. Oh, there he goes. Oh, okay, we're gonna stay away from the Dynamians. We need somebody with range to kill them because they will explode, and they have a deceptively large range at which they do damage. And then, yeah, every time he teleports down, generally, is kind of like the battle starts over again because you don't have all your extra HP yet, so you can use your cooldown there to try to keep everybody alive. You know, specifically yourself as the tank. And you also have the power of the healing potions, which can be quite nice. Don't have a ton of them each day, but you know what, hey, might as well use them if it's going to save you the wipe, right? Kill that guy. Okay, cool. So somebody with range dealt with him. And this is just cleanup at this point in time. I think he's got less than 100,000 hit points by quite a bit. Yeah. Cool. A little bit of burst damage, and off we go. Now, if you are looking for the champion rare mob that gives gadgets, he is going to be up here after this teleport. Hopefully you don't get the bug where it turns the screen black and leaves it black, but most of the time he's going to be in here, and if he is, you should be able to see him on the minimap. It's not really worth running all the way back there to see, but I think we've got the time, it looks like, so Luchador's going to go do that. So, with the final boss here, Wayleb, you're going to start off by fighting a bunch of adds. You can do it a couple of different ways. You can go to either one of these two, like, white sun circle areas and just sort of chill out there. The adds will eventually come in waves at you, and you'll be able to deal with them. Some people think that this side is better because you will have to hide behind this rock, and as the tank you will want to bring a aggro force of some sort here. And you will want to have one of your DPS be ranged again. It's nice to have one ranged DPS at least to deal with Dynamians. But the fun way to do it is not to, you know, wait for all these adds to come over to you. The fun way to do it is to drag every single one of them all at the same time into your DPS and have them murder all of them for you. And through the power of your defensive cooldown and the slow that occurs from Burning Wrath, or, you know, just somebody cranking out wings right as all of them come towards you, you can do that. It's like one of the few places where wings actually does something incredibly useful and effective and fun. So, you know, slam some wings right there if you see the tank do that. It's fun. Like, you're never going to get a chance to use wings otherwise, so why not? If you do it this way, the game doesn't like pick up on the fact that all the adds are already dead. You're still going to have to wait the full amount of time, so it doesn't actually like make anything go faster, as some of the tricks do, but it's really fun, and it's less boring for those few seconds than waiting for, 2 to 5 of the ads to come at you at any given time. Alright, so Waylib has Exhale the Void, which is that right there. If you do not have cooldown reduction on your elite, that is going to be difficult for you to deal with. But you're going to want to impair all of them. You may have to ask for help on that one, and the DPS should be able to do that, or the healer, honestly. Now from here, probably one more Exhale the Void, and now we're waiting for him to use Concuss. So Concuss is an aggro reset that also teleports everybody to random areas on the map if they do not line of sight it. So that's what this rock is for. We're going to stand behind here. He aggro resets. We're going to use our aggro force, which is our gadget, and he's back on us. Now he'll use Open the Rift, and you probably want to be in melee range, regardless of what you're doing right now, because if you're in melee range, he doesn't impair you. Otherwise, like Boogie sees right here, he actually stuns you. No, not allowed. Then I like to sort of drag him back a little bit. Oh, hello. He did too much damage to me in a couple of hits. Whoops. Alright, so we'll try that again. We didn't get past the first phase, so it wasn't too bad. And sometimes stuff like that happens. He can hurt, because final bosses tend to do a lot of damage. And really, honestly, that's why the defensive cooldowns are so powerful, is because they just hit you so hard. There are several bosses that just one-shot you from full health. I don't think there's any in this dungeon in particular, but they get darn close even if they don't one-shot you. Alright, so we're just sort of playing Ring Around the Rosie with these guys here. And they're all dead, and they're all essentially where we want them. Now we sort of chill out and wait for the boss. And yeah, usually one cooldown is plenty enough if you're placing it in the right spots. But again, yeah, Luchador is actually an E5 healer, and I am running, again, probably a little bit less than the defensive gear that you would expect from an E5 tank. I'm running like bare minimum 450 item power levels of tank gear. And that can make it really tough since some of the bosses kill you in one hit. So we wait for Waylib. And same sort of deal. We're just stopping Exhale the Void, because when he drags everybody in with that Open the Rift that we saw near the end, Boogied was not a fan. Then there won't be a giant pile of filth that everybody can fall into and accidentally just die on real quick. So we use our defensive cooldown right at the beginning, because we're not going to have our extra HP yet. Get a couple of nice swings in here. Then we're going to drag him over here so that when we run behind the rock, we'll line of sight him. He really does hit hard, though. Okay, we're going to start trying to fill back up our energy, because he's about to use Concuss. There it is. So again, run behind the rock. He'll use it. The tank runs out, uses an aggro force, which puts you back on him. And then really, honestly, everybody wants to, be close. Because if you are close, you don't get stunned and dragged in by Open the Rift, and you can just run out like me. Oh, jeez. That was our healer. So you can still kind of win on this one against this guy when that happens, because once we get to the next phase, you'll get a buff, and that buff makes it so that we can actually just sort of ignore all the damage he does. Ah, we were so close. Look at how close we were. He walked to the center. No, that's all we needed. That's all we needed. That's too bad. Alright, so third time's the charm here. Yeah, open the rift. That's why you want to be close, is because if you aren't, and he uses it, he drags you all in and he stuns you, and he gives you only barely enough time to go exactly the opposite direction and dive out of the way. So we're going to remind them of that, and then we're going to go in. Alright, so we're going to hop in. We're going to just pick up a bunch of ads here, and then bonk. It's a little bit of chaos, but it's super fun. Otherwise, this part is boring, and you just basically stand in right here and press 1 until it's over, and then you just dive in when when Waylub is about to spawn. Alright, Bat Pig Scorpion. Let's finish this. So, we're just waiting on his spawn here, and then we're going to beat him up. Guess while we're waiting, we can, like, fix our gear. Alright, here he comes. And he does not cleave or anything. You can actually just stand right next to him as a DPS. And nothing bad happens if you do. We're going to stop that with Eruption. We're going to use our cooldown real quick. We're going to run over here and drag him along so that we can line of sight concuss once that starts. And that should be any moment now. There it is. Run behind the rock. And we'll grab the boss again and expect to open the rift any second now, honestly. There it is. And this time you can see everybody can just sort of run away, or you can line of sight it behind the rock still. That's a thing, as Rose decided to do right there. And we're going to stop Exhale the Void. Somebody else did it for me, and that's awesome. And we're going to drag him back here. We should not get another concuss, and a good group is not going to see another concuss, but the timing on that is pretty tight. So if you've got a group that's doing even a little bit less damage than this one is, which is doing solid damage, you will probably see a second concuss and just wash, rinse, repeat. So run over to the bosses now, or to the ads now, because this is our second phase. They're going to respawn with the Itsama's Wrath buff, which gives them a damage bonus, but generally speaking, these ads are going to die well before they get to do much of anything. Yeah, and now we wait is right. Can just sort of be singing, we're working on the railroad, because that's about all you can do as the tank here. The healer really just doesn't get to do anything at all, because you're not really taking any significant damage. Really, the healer can just buff you if they are running the opening shot on their build, which they usually will be. And that's it. Just sort of waiting for the Varangian to appear here. There he is with his neat little sword, which you might recognize. And now we have this crazy buff, right? Makes it so that we're increasing all our damage by 300% and reducing all damage by 50%, so we're taking like half the damage. We're dealing like 4 times as much damage as we normally could. It's crazy. I'm just going to sit here and press 1 and watch the huge numbers. Boogied with some pre-attacking there because he has 3 seconds of leeway. And then after this point in time, we're going to go over and fight Waylub again. However, this time he'll start reanimating these guys and turning them into Dynamions, the exploding mines that will just kill you along with attacking. He sort of splits his concentration between those things 50-50 for the most part. He will also use Concuss, but as long as the Varangian is around, you do not need to do anything else, anything special. Just the tank will need to grab aggro with your aggro force again, but the DPS and the tank don't need to line of sight it, because as long as the Varangian is around, he will not teleport you and mess with your screen. So obviously still stop Open the Void, and try to keep yourself as the tank at a decent amount of energy, so that when he uses Concuss, you'll still have enough energy to start picking aggro back up afterwards. And if you really want to make it so the healer has nothing to do, you can use your cooldown right as he starts attacking you. And you want to use your aggro force the second that finishes. I don't think I've really expressed how important that is, but... Oh no, Rose! I don't think I've expressed how important that is, but if you do not use your aggro force the second that cast finishes, he will generally pick a target and kill that target, and you won't be able to get aggro back on him until that target has been attacked, aka killed. So, the instant that he finishes the cast on Concuss, you will need to use your aggro force. You have like maybe about a half a second of leeway, which doesn't sound like a lot. It's actually a decent chunk. But it's not as much time as you generally have in this game. Ooh, I got stunned from... Okay, he's using Sacrificial Ceremony. If he uses Sacrificial Ceremony, it interrupts his Open the Void. But yeah, we're just about done here. Whoop! And the next hit or two should finish him off. And there it is. We have defeated Waylub, the Hound of whatever. Waylub Zul, the Hound of the Nameless Days. There we go. And always thank your party. And that is how to run the Darkness War dungeon in Secret World Legends. We'll be running the other dungeons, the Ankh and Hell Eternal, the other two dungeons that are still in the game right now, while we wait for the rest of the classic dungeons to be released. And I hope to see you there.